So once again, as you know, the topic of this presentation is going to be persistent identifiers. We are going to be talking about PIDs in general, and then we will mention DOI, SORORs, and ORCID IDs in a bit more detail. So my name is Hana Heringová. I am the head of the National Center for Persistent Identifiers, and I'm joined by Šilha Machová, who is the coordinator of the National ORCID Center, which is one of the services, two main services of the center. We are both from the National Library of Technology, which is, I hope that you know what the National Library of Technology is. Hopefully you have been there as well and used their services. What is important to know that in the library, in the National Library of Technology, we are participating in multiple national projects, mainly CARDS, EOSC, National Repository Platform, etc., etc. A lot of these activities are handled by the Center for Repositories and Metadata Management. We have many colleagues from this center with us here, so you might be, if you are interested in those services, you feel free to speak to them. And one of the services of the Center for Repositories is the National Center for Persistent Identifiers. So now to the two persistent identifiers. I'm sorry, I'm going to be trying to go through the presentation a bit quicker because we have we began 15 minutes later, so we might be a little short on time. Persistent identifiers. This is one of the many definitions that I like to use. Persistent identifiers is a digital identifier that is globally unique. It is persistent. It is machine resolvable. It has a metadata schema associated to it. It identifies an entity, and it can help disambiguate between different entities. They are long-lasting, managed, and registered. Once again, unique digital references to an object that can be represented online. What can you assign persistent identifiers to? Basically, almost everything. You can assign a PID to digital objects, such as articles, datasets, software, audiovisual records, etc., etc. But also to, let's say, abstract objects, such as organizations or projects, or even grants or awards or conferences, and even to physical objects, most notably people, but also research samples and research instruments. The three persistent identifiers we are going to be talking about today, that we are also supporting at the National Center for Persistent Identifiers, are DOI for objects. Let's keep it in a very generic way. ORCID for researchers, and ROR for research organizations. Here are some examples of how these persistent identifiers look like in real life. I'm sure that you have already encountered most of them, if not all of them. But I'm sure that you are aware that these are not, although that these are very common, there's many more persistent identifiers that you can encounter. Some of them are emerging, such as the RAID, which is a research activity identifier. There's IGSN for specifically for research samples, although it sits on the DOI infrastructure. There's EPIC for research data pre-publication, let's say, in a nutshell. There is a lot of discussion about identification for instruments. There is a schema called PIDINST for that. There are identifiers for academic events, for research resources, etc., etc., etc. Once again, in a nutshell, how PIDs work. There's an entity that is assigned a persistent identifier, a unique one, of course. That identifier is registered along with some metadata describing the entity, including links to other related entities. Let's say an article or a data set that is used in that article. When someone clicks on the URL form of the PID, Thanks to a resolver service, the appropriate information is looked up in the PIDS registry, and the user, let's say, is redirected to the current location of the entity or its digital image, let's say. There is a lot of discussions about trusted persistent identifiers. As I mentioned, there is a lot of them, so obviously you want to use the most trusted and the most persistent ones. So obviously persistent identifiers have to be unique, otherwise there is no point. They should be resolvable, they should be persistent, they should come with metadata, they should be interoperable like among each other. And an important thing to remember: they should be managed by an organization that is focused on that activity, that specific activity, and they should have a sustainable business model. It is something that is not maybe obvious, but it is important. That basically underpins the persistence of the PID. Two quotes here. Again, it is important to remember that PIDs are not here because someone told us to, or because they are something given from the God. First quote: a PID is only as good as the services built around it, and PID services are only as good and trustworthy as the social adoption and sustainability they achieve. Second one, the main point is that persistence is not about technology, but about commitment of communities. So this is where the persistence actually comes from, the fact that PIDs are agreed on, used in a certain way, and the communities who are using those PIDs are actually committed to keeping the PIDs persistent. What are persistent identifiers good for? I think Michal covered a lot of it with the FAIR principles, but first point: persistent identifiers ensure reliable links between entities. So, for instance, research results, their authors, their institutions, the grants, etc., etc. So, your work can be clearly attributed to you as a researcher, to your organization. It kind of helps increase kind of overall transparency and credibility of the information on research results or research ecosystem. Obviously, persistent identifiers simplify access to research results. They help or facilitate citation and reuse of research. And therefore they help implement open science, and they obviously underpin the FAIR principles for research data. PIDs can be connected, which generates additional data on research. It can help take better strategic decisions based on data. It can help discover certain trends, maybe, or certain relations that might not be obvious. And persistent identifiers enable automatic exchange of information between systems, which can help reduce administrative burden on researchers. And I'm going to be talking about that in more detail here. Basically, how that works is that a researcher and research administrators, they need to submit manually same information repeatedly in various systems, such as repositories, funding application systems, fund reporting platforms, etc., etc., etc. PIDs could be used to alleviate that manual effort. If you have a PID with associated metadata, and you do have systems that can work with those PIDs, you can just submit the metadata once, and then you can reuse just the PID. The metadata can be downloaded, let's say, based on the PID into the systems. We ran a cost-benefit analysis for PID implementation in the Czech Republic, and the result was that if 5 specific PIDs were fully implemented in the key systems in the Czech Republic, in the Czech research, it could save over 7,200 man-days of unnecessary work, mostly to researchers. And now we are going to DOI. I'm gonna ask, how are we doing on time? If I should speed up or, yeah. So DOI, I'm sure that you have already used or encountered DOI in your life. The abbreviation stands for Digital Object Identifier, which can be a little confusing. It is not strictly for digital objects. It basically identifies an object, let's say, or an entity throughout their life cycle. Even if the location of that entity or its metadata changes, the DOI should always bring you to the current location. It is based on the handle system, which I mean it's just something to possibly keep in mind. And the DOIs are registered through the so-called registration agencies. There's 12 of them currently. The two most important ones that you are going to encounter the most are Crossref and DataSite. Crossref has been created for publishing workflows, basically, and it still specializes in those workflows. DataSite has been created 10 years later, already with the research data and repository environment in mind. What can you assign a DOI to? This is specifically for DataSite. There's 32 resource types, and you see that there are text-based resources, but there are other resources, and even in the text-based resources, there is something as generic as text. In other, there is other. So the variety is really wide. The advantages of using DOIs, I mean, for you as researchers, I think it's mostly the maturity and the widespread adoption, but there are other advantages that are more important for, let's say, repository managers or your institutions. DOI assignment, as I mentioned, there is always a registration agency. Institutions that want to assign DOIs become members, let's say, of the registration agencies, and they are basically managing the assignment of DOIs on their own or for their own purposes. So the DOI assignment really happens at that level. There is no like central authority that you have to ask for a DOI and they are going to give it to you. Just some basics. Here's an example of DOI. It should be displayed, or DOIs in general should be displayed in this like full URL format. Among other reasons, there is it's much more usable for people, for humans. There is always the blue part, which is called the prefix, that identifies either a publisher or a certain repository. And then the green part is called suffix, and that identifies the actual object within that repository. One object should always correspond to one DOI. In some cases, more DOIs for same or similar object is necessary. For instance, when you have different versions of the objects, or when a text is translated to a different language. It basically always is a functional reference to something called a landing page, which is a page with more information on the object. And the general rule of thumb is that the objects do not have to last forever, but the metadata on those should persist long term. There's quite a lot of like best practices regarding DOI assignment, but these are the key ones possible, hopefully for you. The DOI should always be assigned by the institution who is in some way responsible for the object. It cannot be like the institution needs to be able to manage the PID, the metadata. It needs to be kind of it cannot be shared or sold to different institutions. Obviously, every time that a DOI is assigned, it should be or someone should make sure that there's not already a DOI in place. And once again, the object itself does not have to be publicly available or even existing, but the metadata or the language, the landing page should be. And how can you get a DOI as a researcher? Once again, for objects that do not yet have a DOI. For a journal article, it's going to be the publisher that's going to assign the DOI. For a data set, you're going to get it from the repository. If the repository that you want to use does not offer DOIs, we typically advise to contact your library or research support department or the repository administrator to gain some guidance. Just a little mention about ROR. ROR means Research Organization Registry, assigning ROR IDs. You can see an example here. Hopefully you can see it. Once again, it's a full URL, ROR.org, and the actual value of the ID. It is an identifier that is supposed to help track research organizations or any organizations that has something to do with research, so including libraries, archives, funders, etc. It was specifically created to track affiliations of researchers. Here you can see an example of a ROR of the Biology Center of the Czech Academy of Sciences. You see that there are some acronyms, different variant names, and it also shows you relationships. There are some predecessor organizations, child organizations, parent organizations, other identifiers, website, etc. Some additional information, and it is actually managed by California Digital Library, but also Crossref and DataCite, which are the two DOI registration agencies that I mentioned. So once again, I mean, the ROR is fairly straightforward. It is possible that you might encounter it at some point. So this is what it is. It's very simple. And with that, I'm gonna hand over to Hana, and she's gonna tell you more about ORCID ID and how to use ORCID as a researcher.
Thank you very much. And my part will be only about ORCID, and it will be quite simple, I would say. However, I will be switching between several profiles and videos and so on, so I hope I will manage. And I have divided my part into four items or into four topics. The first one, I will try to introduce you ORCID ID and give you answers for why to have one. In the second part, I will be showing you how to create your own ORCID ID and what not to forget. And in the third part, I will just briefly introduce the ORCID support in the Czech Republic and share with you some useful links. And the fourth part will be for your questions and discussions. And let me start by sharing with you a nice video introducing ORCID ID.
ORCID je celosvětová platforma určená všem výzkumníkům, doktorandům, akademikům a dalším profesionálům z oblasti vědy a výzkumu. ORCID ID jednoznačně propojuje autory a autorky s výsledky jejich výzkumu a zůstává neměnné i při změně jména či pracoviště. ORCID profil zároveň poskytuje prostor pro prezentaci vědeckých a profesních úspěchů a díky jednoznačnosti identifikátoru ORCID ID slouží jako mezinárodní profesionální životopis.
Určitě doporučuji zřízení ORCIDu všem, minimálně vědeckým pracovníkům, protože se tímto profilem můžete prezentovat. Takže se vás může vyhledat a zjistit, jak vypadá vaše vědecká kariéra, například, jaké máte publikace, jaké máte ocenění, jak vypadá váš životopis. Je to platforma, která umožňuje tyto informace spojit všechny dohromady a jednoduše tak zrevidovat vaši vědeckou kariéru.
Určitě má smysl založit si ORCID ID. Prezentování vašich výsledků bude pohodlné, rychlé a efektivní.
ORCID. Propojení výzkumu a výzkumníků.
So let me just briefly sum it up. So what is ORCID ID? It's a code, and it's a persistent identifier, as was already mentioned. And the thing is that it is created absolutely for free. It's something like your professional CV, and you can imagine it like your profile, which includes information about your affiliation, about your publications, contact details, and so on. You can add as many information as possible. And it even allows automatic updates of your profile if you get permission to your home institution or to some other databases and so on. And it always requires the researcher's consent for data sharing and updates. Now, ORCID became, let's say, standard for the unique and persistent identification of all individuals. And it's even supported by the European Commission and required in programs such as Horizon Europe and others. And it's also requested by many publishers, such as Elsevier, Nature, and so on. And it helps to fulfill the FAIR principles. And here in the Czech Republic, it's recommended for reporting results in ESVAVAI, in RIF. And what is the company ORCID? ORCID is a global non-profit organization which is supported by a member organization. And ORCID is, let's say, governed by the community and managed by the board of directors. And it provides three things. The first thing is provides ORCID identifiers, and then ORCID records connected with the ORCID IDs, and then it runs the ORCID APIs. What is the difference between ORCID ID and other identifiers? Is the main difference is that ORCID is an independent identifier which is not linked with any commercial database. Here there is a simple picture with the researcher in the middle with his or her ORCID ID, and it shows how ORCID ID can be shared between the ecosystem. So it is provided to the institutional systems, it is shared with the funder systems, it is shared with the discovery and profile systems, and it can be shared with the publisher systems. What are the key principles? This is quite important because you should know that you are the one as the owner of the profile who always have the full control over your profile. You are the one who have the option to set visibility of each item. You are the one who manage and grant permissions for trusted organization. Here there is a link for the ORCID privacy policy where you can find details about how the personal data are managed. And with the key principles in more details, I mentioned that you are the one who set the visibility of each item. So you can choose between sharing each item with everyone, it's publicly shared, or only with trusted parties, or it is not visible at all. It's visible only for you. You can find in the profile trust markers, which is like the icon with the source of each item on your profile. So there are two options. There is an item added by you, and it is with the blue picture with your name. And then there is the trust marker, which is the source, trusted organization, which you get permission, and the trusted organization shares some data with your profile. I will now skip to a concrete profile, and I will show you what you can find here. So basically, you can find like 3 basic parts. The first one is heading with the name of the researcher and the ORCID ID. And then there is the section personal information, where you can find publicly shared personal info such as contact and websites, other IDs, and so on. And then there is a huge part activities, which is divided into some parts such as employment, such as education, funding, and works. And there you can find the source of each information, as I already mentioned. And for example, in the work section, there is possible that there is a work added by more than one source. Then it is, let's say, grouped into one item, and you can even see what is the source of the information, and you can even choose preferred source of the information. So this is basically the structure of the profile. Here is some, let's say, useful feature, record summary, so you can just simply see some basic statistic about the profile, so how many works, how many affiliations, and so on. And now I will skip again to the presentation, and I will just show you some basic tips. So maybe you already have your ORCID profile. If you don't have, it's just really simply process. For the beginning, you just need 2 things. One is your name, and the second thing is your email, and you can just simply have your profile in few minutes. And once you have your profile, then I will show you something not to forget when you create your profile. And the third thing is not forget to share it. Anytime when you, let's say, write an email or get a presentation or on your websites and so on. So this is the first step to have your ORCID ID, to visit orcid.org, and in few steps to create your own profile. And now I will switch into my profile and show you what not to forget. So I'm already signed into my profile, and the first thing I would not forget is to add more than one email address, because it's very important. And it's very, very important because, for example, when you change your employer and you add only one address, like the business address or the employee's address, then you can lose your connection with your profile. So I would highly recommend to add more than one email address, and it can be set here. And you can even, if you don't want to share, for example, your personal email, again, you can set the visibility for not public sharing, and then it is absolutely okay. So this is the first thing. Then I would recommend you to add as many name variations as possible, so that you are really visible. And so here you are invited to add your all the name variations and how other people knows you, or what are the names your publications are connected with. And the third thing is to add your affiliation as soon as possible. I'm starting to run out of time, so I will be a little bit faster. So the third thing is to connect your affiliation. And you have basically two ways how to do it. You can either add it manually. So it's very simple. You will find your organization here in this list. So I will start, for example, to write and once I find my organization or the metadata will be added to my profile, I can even give some details and such as my position and so on. And once I save it, I can see the new item here, and I can even see all the details. The other possibility to let the trusted organization to add the affiliation. So here is the example. National Library of Technology is the part of the member organization, so they added the affiliation to my profile. Then I will show you how to simply add and connect your profile with some common databases. You have several options. Again, once you want to add new work to your profile, you have several options. For example, if you know DOI, you can add the new work via DOI, or you can add it absolutely manually. You can use BibTeX or PubMed ID, but the most recommended option is to use the tool Search and Link, where there are a list of databases that you can choose. For example, when I choose Web of Science, I can simply make a connection with a Web of Science database. I am again asked to authorize the access. Once I do it, I will be asked to choose my profile or to find my works and to connect it with my profile. And once I choose it, it's sent to my profile. With Web of Science, you are also able to set automatic updates. So once you are publishing, then the new item is automatically added to your profile. And this is just simply here. When I'm in Web of Science, in my profile, there is the possibility or the option profile settings. And here is ORCID synchronization. And here you can choose to export publication to ORCID from the Web of Science, or to export peer reviews, export the records to the Web of Science from ORCID. So this is the automatic updates. And here you don't forget to get permissions for sharing publications and peer reviews and share profile data. Once you set up this, it's automatically sharing information. The same way is with many other databases, which I will now skip, but the same is with, for example, DataCite, Crossref, and so on. So those are the basic, let's say, tips how to create your profile. There is even a new feature, like you can choose up to 5 most important publications and outputs, and you can develop this category, like to highlight the best results of your research. Yeah, and I think this is basically those tips, what not to forget. And the last information from my side will be just the basic mention that you are even like managing the trust parties. So in your profile, in this section, which is trusted parties, you see all the organization you grant permissions, and you always have the option to revoke the access. So this is a really important part, that you are the one who really have the full control on your profile. What's more, you can even find a colleague of you who is able or who is willing to set up your profile. Then you can connect with him via these trusted individuals, and you, let's say, get a permission to him to set up your profile. So it might be your colleague or someone from the support who is willing to help you with your profile. And last but not least, let me only briefly tell you that here in the Czech Republic, we have the National Orchid Center, which is, let's say, Orchid Consortia. Here you can see 28 members of the consortia, and we are forcing those institutions to have integration into their system, so they can add new information to your profiles. So this is basically the list of those institutions. And the last slide is, let's say, some useful links. We have got a web page, identificator.cz, with a lot of information about persistent identifiers. As you saw the video in the beginning, there are even those links with sharing videos and information about Orchid ID. And yeah, you can always visit orchid.com for more information. So that's it from my side. Maybe some questions or comments or discussion.
Yeah.